Oh, hello, my fellow programmers. I was just playing a game. I'm King Link, and this is going to be a quick look and review of TIS-100. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. So, I make video games for a living, and I actually do that by programming them. I've been a professional video game programmer for 12 years now. This video might actually come out on the anniversary of me getting into the industry. That was in August 2006. Before that, I worked in finance and went to college for computer science. That's a very long way for me to say I professionally program. It's what I do for a living. So when I get home, I veg out. I boot up my Steam box and play some games and review them, of course. And yet, sometimes I'll boot up TIS-100. You see, TIS-100 is a programming game. It's not a hacking game like Uplink or Hacknet. It's not a computer game with computers in it like Deus Ex. It's a programming game. TIS-100 is a game where you program assembly commands into processors on a strange piece of hardware and watch them do their job. It's part programming, part simulation of that program, part debugging, and of course a part of a puzzle. Okay, so it's mostly programming. However, at the end of the process, or at any time you wish, you can run the program and see how it runs, and see if you get the correct answer. If you don't, the execution will give you an error code and allow you to look at it. So, you might ask, where's the puzzle? Well, before I answer that, let's address the screen. I'm going to be working on the first 5 puzzles in the game. They're the earliest and easiest puzzles as well, so there's not going to be much spoiling here, but they will show a solution that I'm going to code up. So, as for the puzzle, the thing is, the size of each processor is limited, so oftentimes you won't be able to write a single function in one processor. The puzzle is how do you program the machine to do what you're asking it to. Now there's modules that will ask you to do multiplication and division, and that should be rather simple if you've had enough memory locations. However, you don't here. You do have 2 registers you can use, but one is accessible at a time. And how many lines a processor can use? Usually one less than what you want. The puzzle is how do you make your system do something it's not able to. The whole game and story behind it revolves around you finding this weird machine from your uncle and a manual with it. Your aunt has sent it to you, and that's how you're getting it. In addition, there's a bunch of different little coded messages in the debug of different modules that are broken, so you get a little bit of story. But really, this is a programming game. It's not about the story. It's more about having fun with this new machine. And you basically need to learn how to make the machine work through basic instructions from the manual and solving certain puzzles the game presents. I actually opened up the manual, like I am right now, a few times, and I'll use it as a reference guide. So, the game starts with a simple instruction to read in and move the value to the output, as you've already seen. You also get stuff like adding 2 values together. But from there you'll tackle things that sound easy, like those multiplication and division problems, but are remarkably interesting to work on within the limitations of the system. You know, multiplication is actually a great example. Everyone knows how to multiply 2 numbers together. However, with one register, you need to consider another path. You can't just store 2 values. Instead, you can use one processor that passes a number multiple times to another processor, and that second processor just adds them together until it receives a control code. I know this sounds complex, and the code for that module is complex, but when you finish it, you'll have an impressive piece of code that will work. You know, just beating most modules in this game should be treated as a huge win. You've made a strange machine bend to your will, and that's an impressive feat no matter how you look at it. However, after you're done, the game will show you your solution as it compares to others. This is the big decision point for most players. You can fully walk off and claim victory that you beat the puzzle and work on something new. However, you can also look at other players and notice that the other players did it faster or with less modules or even with less instructions. From there you can try to optimize the program and try to top each of those boards. Now there is an upper limit, or lower in this case, to each of those values, both by what's done and technically mathematically there's a limit to how fast you can make this processor run. However, it's usually impossible to hit all 3 values at the same time, so this usually requires building 3 different sets of instructions for the optimization. There is 3 different save slots for your program as well, so you can tackle it and save each one individually. If you choose to tackle it and enjoy optimizing code, it is a lot of fun to try to master the system or try to figure out how you can eke out a little more power from the system. Even dropping 10 cycles is exciting. Well, it is to me. In fact, as I was playing this for the recording, I actually beat a few of these faster than I ever have before, topping my friends' numbers and really making me feel like a king because I was able to eke out that little bit of speed, dropping from maybe 300 to 200 cycles. And like I said, that's exciting to me. So that's what really makes a Zachtronics game a Zachtronics game. They create interesting rules and operations in a world, and in this case it's their own assembly language and their own computer, and then they celebrate your accomplishment when you beat one of their puzzles. But they'll also sneakily drop the knowledge that someone, and usually it's your friend, has done it before and done it better, faster, or more efficient, driving you to try to reach that same level of skill. That's really TIS-100 in a nutshell. But it's also a bit of space chem done with Waldo instructions and manipulating molecules, Infinifactory with production and combination of blocks, Shenzhen.io again with programming, and Opus Magnum with combining elements again with Waldos. The thing is, if you've played any of these games already, you probably know what Zachtronics does with most of their games. And if you like any of them, you're probably going to enjoy the entire line. They each play a bit differently, but if you really look at them, you can also realize it's a similar game done in different manners. TIS-100 and Shenzhen.io does use more traditional programming than the others, but at the same time they all have interesting and similar properties, and in reality they're all programming, just with different UIs on top of it. I bring up all these games because, honestly, I doubt I'll review each one individually, and I really should. And people should also know that this line of games is incredible. I may give Opus Magnum its own review one day, possibly a full review, because it's both the newest one and the most polished of the series, but as for TIS-100 and really the whole line, I actually have a problem with my score. You see, I made it so 5 isn't just an excellent game in a genre, but a game that breaks out of its genre and everyone should take a look at it. I've only given that score to Ori and the Blind Forest, the definitive edition, and Into the Breach, and I will say both of them still deserve it. However, TIS-100, and in fact all of these games from Zachtronics, gives me even more pleasure than both of those games. The feeling of accomplishment is incredible here, and the coding challenges or just the puzzles that are presented are fantastic. At the same time, if you play TIS-100, you're going to have to learn to program quite a bit. It's not true programming, but it's still using assembly language at a high level. I have a feeling most people may not enjoy that. But yet, this game is so good, I still think people need to take a serious look at it, or any of the Zachtronics games. So, with all that being said, I'm going to give this game a 5 out of 5. It's just simply one of the most impressive and amazing games I've ever played, and Zach Barth is just an exceptional designer. Take a look at this game, and if you have any interest in programming, this is a great middle ground. If programming scares you, I understand that, and I would recommend looking at Infinifactory or Opus Magnum instead. Now, just to be clear, this is a video game. It's not edutainment or anything. It's not trying to teach you something beyond that. But it does teach you quite a bit about programming, assembly language, debugging, and optimization of code. Well, you are tackling puzzles. And here's the thing. In reality, that's what programming really is. You solve puzzles using code to make a computer do something that you want it to. So in that way, it really is a programming game as well. And you know what? I'm King Link, and I may have just blown my entire credibility with this score and reviewing this game, but I'm proud of it. TIS-100 can be the hill I die on proudly. So, this is actually my second quick look this month. We're going to be back to normal reviews shortly with This Is the Police, and I'll be looking into the Humble Monthly Bundle that has come out as I record this, and figuring out where I can review them. There's actually some long ones, so it's going to take some time. With that said, I'm out. I'll see you next time.